You are almost certainly within arm's reach of one right now. It hums quietly inside your phone, your laptop, and millions of cars on the road. In the next few minutes, you'll understand the elegant little dance happening inside it. This is the lithium-ion battery, the rechargeable powerhouse of the modern world. It's worth understanding because almost everything portable and electric depends on it. So let's open one up in our imagination and see how it really works. First, what is a battery at all? It's simply a device that stores energy as chemicals and releases that energy as electricity whenever you need it. Think of it as a tank that quietly holds energy until you turn on the tap. And what is electricity? At its heart, electricity is just the flow of tiny particles called electrons. When countless electrons drift in the same direction through a wire, we call that an electric current. A bit like water flowing through a pipe. Electrons are pieces of atoms, and atoms are the tiny building blocks that everything is made of. Each atom has a dense center and a cloud of these lightweight, negatively charged electrons buzzing around it. Now meet the star of our story, lithium. It's a soft, silvery metal and, remarkably, the lightest metal there is. Its special talent is that it holds onto one of its electrons very loosely and is always eager to give it away. When a lithium atom does give away that electron, it becomes a positively charged particle that we call an ion. Hold on to that word. A lithium ion is just a lithium atom that has lost one electron and now carries a positive charge. Inside the battery, there are two main players, called electrodes. An electrode is simply a block of material that lithium can move into and out of. One electrode is the negative side, the other is the positive side. The negative electrode is usually made of graphite, the same soft carbon found in pencil tips. Graphite is built from countless thin layers, like a thick stack of paper, and lithium loves to tuck itself in between those layers. The positive electrode is made from a special crystal, a compound of lithium, oxygen, and a metal such as cobalt, nickel, or iron. This crystal is full of tiny parking spaces that lithium ions can slot neatly into. Between the two electrodes sits a liquid called the electrolyte. This liquid is the secret to the whole device. It lets lithium ions swim freely across, but it completely blocks electrons from passing through. There's also a thin barrier called the separator, a plastic film full of microscopic holes. It keeps the two electrodes from physically touching, which would be dangerous, while still letting the little ions slip through its pores. And here is the clever trick at the core of every battery. Because the electrolyte blocks electrons, the electrons are forced to take a detour. The only path they can follow runs out through a wire, around the outside, and back in. Let's charge the battery first. When you plug into the wall, the charger pushes energy in, prying lithium ions out of the positive crystal and sending them swimming across the electrolyte toward the graphite. There, the lithium ions slip into the spaces between the graphite layers and settle in. Scientists call this slotting in intercalation, and it's a lot like sliding coins one by one into a stack. The battery is now storing energy like a spring being wound tight. As each positive ion travels across inside the battery, an electron travels the same way around the outside through the charger. When the graphite is packed full of lithium, the battery is fully charged and ready to work. Now unplug it and switch your device on. The lithium ion sitting in the graphite would much rather be back in the comfortable parking spaces of the positive crystal, so they begin swimming back across the electrolyte. But remember, their electrons cannot follow them through the liquid. Instead, those electrons are pushed out through the wire and straight through your device, and that stream of electrons is the electricity that brings your gadget to life. So your phone or motor simply sits in the electron's only available path. As the electrons squeeze through, they give up their energy as light, motion, or computation, and then quietly rejoin the lithium ions waiting at the positive side. This is why people call it a rocking chair battery. The lithium ions just rock back and forth between the two electrodes, into the graphite when you charge, back to the crystal when you discharge, over and over again. Because nothing is permanently used up in this gentle shuttling, you can repeat it hundreds or even thousands of times. That reversibility is exactly what makes the battery rechargeable rather than disposable. It's called a lithium-ion battery because it's the lithium-ion, not solid lithium metal, that does all the traveling. Using ions instead of raw, reactive lithium metal is the breakthrough that finally made these batteries safe enough for everyday pockets. But why choose lithium in the first place? Being the lightest metal and so willing to release its electron, lithium packs a huge amount of energy into very little weight. Engineers call that energy density, meaning how much energy you can store per kilogram. High energy density is the reason your phone can be thin, and an electric car can drive for hundreds of miles on a single charge. Lithium also gives a strong electrical push, known as voltage. Voltage is the force that drives the electrons along, and lithium's chemistry provides far more of that push per cell than older battery types could. One of these complete units is properly called a cell. A battery can be a single cell like the one in your phone, or thousands of cells bundled together, like the giant pack beneath the floor of an electric car. To collect all those electrons, each electrode is coated onto a thin metal foil, copper on the graphite side, aluminum on the crystal side. These foils gather the electrons and carry them out to the terminals you can actually touch. Inside a real cell, these coated foils and the separator are stacked or wound up tightly, like a long Swiss roll, and sealed into the familiar metal cylinders or flat pouches you find in your devices. When you recharge, a smart charger fills the battery quickly at first, then deliberately slows down as it approaches full. It's much like topping off a glass of water gently, so it fills completely without spilling over. This is also why very fast charging has limits. If the ions are shoved across too quickly, some lithium can pile up as metal on the graphite instead of slotting in, which wastes capacity and can become unsafe. Batteries also age, and now you can see why. Every charge grows a microscopic crust on the graphite and locks away a little lithium forever, while the electrodes slowly crack with use. After many cycles, the capacity quietly fades, which is why an old phone dies sooner. Heat is the other great enemy. If a cell is crushed, overcharged, or allowed to get too hot, the separator can fail. The two sides touch, and the stored energy dumps out all at once as heat, sometimes triggering a runaway fire. That's why nearly every battery hides a guardian called a battery management system. This little circuit constantly watches the voltage and temperature, keeps the cells balanced, and stops charging the instant things reach a safe limit. By changing the recipe of that positive crystal, engineers can tune the battery's personality. A nickel-rich blend stores more energy for longer range, while an iron-based one is cheaper, longer-lasting, and harder to set alight. These batteries are everywhere now, in phones, laptops, power tools, electric bikes, and cars. Increasingly, they're also stacked into warehouse-sized installations that store electricity for the entire power grid. That grid role matters more every year. Because sunshine and wind come and go, big banks of batteries save extra clean energy when it's plentiful and release it when it's needed, like a savings account for electricity. None of this appeared overnight. The key ideas were assembled through the 1970s and 80s by three researchers, Stanley Whittingham, John Goodnow, and Akira Yoshino, and the first commercial lithium-ion battery went on sale in 1991. Their work was so transformative that the three shared the 2019 Nobel Prize in Chemistry. It's hard to overstate the result. They cut the cord on our devices and helped make the electric car genuinely practical. The story isn't finished either. Researchers are now developing solid-state batteries, which replace that liquid electrolyte with a solid one that could be safer and hold even more energy, with the first pilot factories and vehicles appearing right now. Others are building sodium-ion batteries, which swap costly lithium for sodium, an element so abundant it's found in ordinary table salt. The first sodium-powered cars are just beginning to reach the road as a cheaper alternative. So the next time you plug in your phone, picture it, a silent tide of lithium ions flowing in to be stored, then drifting back out to power your whole day. It's a tiny, elegant dance, and it's quietly electrifying the world.